Here we want to pick up red and blue. So they really want to have all these profiles.
All right, should we get rolling? All right, welcome everybody. How is everyone? Nice, thanks for being here. How many of you are here for the first time, never been to Boston PHP before? All right, Moshe's bringing them in, filling the seats. We're happy that you're here. We've been around for a while as a group. We've been around since 2002, believe it or not. I wasn't involved way back then. I don't think any of the organizers were at that time, but it started in 2002 with a few people in a coffee shop, and these days we have we try to have a meeting once a month, and we've had 148 of these so far. I think this is our 149th monthly Boston PHP event. So check us out. If it's the first time you've ever been here, you can find us here once a month. We usually try and do a Wednesday night in the middle of the month, depending on availability here. If you've never been here before to the Nerd Center, it's pretty amazing. Pretty much every weeknight you can come here and hear some kind of talk about technology. So we're happy to be here. We've got a bunch of members. This is how many so far today. When I was making the slide, I've got over 3,600 members. So more people are joining than are leaving, which is pretty good. The 3,600 milestone, I think, was last week or earlier this week, which is it's always interesting to see. But we're not out to hit giant numbers. We really want to just put on quality events. But we're happy to see it when the numbers go higher because it feels like we're doing something right. We're an organization that is really big on education. We do these once a month. We hope that they're fun events and you get to meet interesting people, have some pizza. But we want you to leave here knowing a little bit more than you did when you walked in the door. So one of the things that happens outside of our monthly meetups is Gene, who's right here, who's going to talk for a second, organizes these self-study groups, which are interesting, and it's really taking off. It's fragmenting and going in a bunch of different directions. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Gene for a minute, and he's just going to tell you about what's happening in the world of self-study.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. January 1st of 2011, we started our very first virtual self-study group designed to answer the question, what can we do after we leave here? 1% of our month, 1% of the time we spend in a typical month might be in a meetup like this. 2 or 3 hours a night, maybe you go to another meetup. We get fired up about a topic, then we go home, and then tomorrow morning reality hits. The alarm goes off, you get back to work for some of us, and the momentum kind of quickly goes away. So we started virtual self-study groups. The core idea is, let's pick a topic, let's pick a book. Let's all decide and make a commitment to read 1 chapter a week of that particular topic, that particular book, post our exercises online at the meetup.com site, and help each other out. Help us learn a topic and go through a book. A book might have 10, 15 chapters. Getting through a book is surprisingly not easy. Many of us have books at home that kind of stack up, and maybe we read 1 chapter, read 2 chapters. If we have a core group of people trying to help one another along the way, there's some momentum that carries through, and then you get to the book and you feel like you've actually made progress on that topic. So right now we're going through one of the flavors, which we call HTML5 Brunch. The core is learning HTML5 and related topics. Implementing responsive design, we started in June. We're going to end up in August. We have 37 active participants. So the next core group that we're going to start is the first group that we started, PHP Percolate. We've now been through 6 iterations of PHP Percolate, most of the time picking a different topic. So season 7 begins on September 14th, and it's called Effortless E-commerce. So it's an intermediate/advanced book that covers e-commerce topics related to PHP and MySQL. It's going to be led by Mike Murphy and David Petrenga. And as I said, it starts in mid-September. We are going to experiment with one more new group. Based on tonight's presentation, we feel that there's enough interest in learning Drupal that we are going to start in September, assuming there's enough interest, and you got to help us out here. A new group called Drupal Diner. We kind of have this food theme going on. We like food in all of our groups. So Drupal for Beginners, we're in the process of picking a book, and Leslie Glynn will be leading that particular group. Leslie, if you can identify yourself and hold up the book we're considering. So this is the book. It's been around for a year or two. Moshe gives us the thumbs up as well. So we're going to look at the book. We're going to make a decision whether that's the book we're going to use or not. Geared toward beginners, geared toward just kind of getting started off and moving on from there. So if you're interested in learning more about Drupal, especially after tonight's talk, we already have a meetup set up. It's on the homepage. It's called Drupal Diner Season 1. And just go there and simply acknowledge that you're interested. We'll officially announce it in August. And we have one final thing that we want to announce. Again, it's part of the core, what we call a 99% solution. What do we do in the 99% of the time that we're not here physically at meetups? We've launched a job board. We've noticed a lot of interest over time to say, hey, what kind of jobs out there, PHP related, maybe on the fringe of PHP. So we now have 100 members. We announced it in early June. We have 100 members who've opted into this test group. It's basically a Google group we set up. So if you are interested in receiving information about jobs, PHP related, basically web developer jobs, PHP related or not, you can simply go to the front of our homepage and you'll see job openings on the left-hand side as one of the sponsors. Just click that link for job openings. It'll show you exactly how to sign up for the Google group. Maybe you just want to receive information about job opportunities. Maybe you're a hiring manager. Maybe you're a recruiter. So we want to get this exchange of information going on about opportunities. This is our best way to kind of get moving in that direction. And it doesn't have to be opportunities per se in a traditional job sense. Let's say you have a project that you're working on and you kind of know the PHP part of it, but maybe you need someone to help you with the front-end web design. Maybe you don't have any money. Maybe you're willing to donate a gift certificate to Starbucks. So we can be creative with this job board. It doesn't have to be a traditional job. As long as you've got a project and you want some help on a project, you can post it on the job opportunities board through Google, and we can kind of get some feedback going on. So if you have any questions about any of those opportunities afterwards, just see me at the time.
All right, thanks, Gene. This is a section of our intros where we like to pass the microphone around for people to make any announcements. And this is something where a lot of times people, if they're looking for a job, they'll stand up and they'll say, you know, here are my skills. I do X, Y, and Z, and I'm looking for a job. Or companies are hiring, that kind of thing. So don't be shy about this. I do want to hand the microphone over to James from AppNeta in the beginning of this. I'm going to talk about sponsorship very quickly in a second, but AppNeta sponsored all the pizza tonight. So I'd like to just give James a chance to tell you all about who they are.
Hey, so I'm James from AppNeta. We're an application performance management company. We're HQ'd in Boston Innovation District. So what do? We monitor the performance of your website, and that can be a PHP website, Java. We actually integrate pretty well with Drupal. We're actually partners with the folks at Acquia. So why are we sponsoring? We love the PHP community. We love the Drupal community. We'd be really interested in trying to help you guys have faster performing sites. So if you're ever interested in checking out what we do, you can either talk to me, go Google AppNeta. It's AppNeta. A lot of people don't know how to spell that. You might also mention DevOps Days. Yeah, so I also happen to be one of the organizers for DevOps Days Boston. DevOps Days is a conference series. It's actually run by the guy who coined the word DevOps. Now, it covers everything to do with server management, automation, configuration, but also the cultural aspects of it. It's going to be a really interesting event. It's actually hosted right here on August 18th and 19th. We're about halfway sold out of tickets already, so you should definitely go ahead and register if that's something that's interesting to you. You can search for DevOps Days. We're listed right there on the main website, or you can come talk to me about it.
So who else wants to make an announcement? Yeah. in the back there. Bobby's got a microphone for you.
So I'm relatively new to the whole meetup scene, but
Welcome.
I just started as a recruiter for North Point Digital. Still kind of getting my feet wet and learning the whole web development scene as well. But we are actively looking for PHP web developers with our main focus being on content management, digital media strategy. So if anyone is looking for a job or wants to learn a little bit more about North Point, feel free to speak with me afterward or thing Garcia at northpointdigital.com and talk it further from there. Great.
Thanks. What's your name?
Andrew Garcia.
Andrew. Great. Amy. There you go.
Hi, my name is Amy. I'm a front-end developer and UI designer. I'm currently looking for work, so if there's any opportunities, reach out to me.
Thanks, Amy. Amy's been a long-time Boston PHP member and contributor. Helped us with Northeast PHP design and stuff like that. So definitely look up Amy if you're looking for that sort of thing. Back here.
Hello, my name is Willie. I work at the Free Software Foundation. We host the City CRM meetup every month in downtown. If you're not familiar with it, it's a CRM, constituent relationship management tool for nonprofits, Drupal module. You can also throw it on top of WordPress and Joomla. Feel free to talk to me about or any other nonprofit tech questions. Thanks.
What's it called?
City CRM, like Civitas.
Peter?
I'm Peter Cahill, but I actually have a client that found me on the PHP website. He was my client before, but he was excited about the group, and he has his own website, and he's looking for someone to help him rebuild it, and particularly someone that's proficient in Laravel. And it's rotatingroom.com, and if there's anybody interested, I can do more instruction. So if you want to check it out, rotatingroom.com, if you think you might be able to help redesign it, just let me know.
Thanks, Peter. For those of you who don't know Peter, he's been a big help to Boston PHP. A few years back, we basically had no bank account and no status in terms of nonprofit or anything like that. Peter helped us set up basically all the documents we needed to be a legitimate organization, nonprofit documents and all that sort of thing, IRS stuff. So we really appreciate it. Yep, over here.
Hi, my name is John Newman. I work at the Museum of Fine Arts. And this is my first time here. I swear I didn't know about this ahead of time, but one of our two Drupal developers is leaving for California on Friday. So we have a job opening on our website, mfa.org.
Great. Back here, Bobby.
Hi, I'm Will. I'm currently going through a Drupal bootcamp course right now. It's called Tech Bootcamp. I'm actually the very first class of this program. I'm on my 6th week right now, so I have a little over 2 more weeks to go. And afterwards, I will be looking for employment or other opportunities in the Drupal community, as well as other web development opportunities. So, if anyone.
Great. Thanks, Will. Any other announcements? All right, we'll keep moving here. Just talking about some coming attractions here. Check us out on August 20th right here at NERD. We're going to be doing another lightning rounds meeting. I love these events because it allows us to get 5 or sometimes 6 different speakers up for 15 minutes at a time to talk about whatever it is they've been working on or whatever it is they know about. So you can walk out of there hearing 6 really different, interesting things, and it's a great chance for all of you to step out of the audience, come up to the podium, and get 15 minutes of the spotlight. So don't be shy on this. I would really encourage you to try and get involved in this. There's, If you're a first-time speaker, that's totally okay. We want to hear what you've been working on. You can show us an app. You can introduce us all to a certain kind of technology. We've had all kinds of different things up here. So what we're asking is that you let us know by I think August 11th is what we have up there on the Meetup site. You can go on our Meetup page right now and RSVP for this now. It's up, just went up today, but it hasn't been announced. But if you want to speak about something, let us know. We've got our big Northeast PHP event in September. How many people have been to previous Northeast PHP events? So a few of you have. This is our big annual conference. This will be the third annual conference, the third Northeast PHP. It's organized by some people from Canada, some people from Vermont, and then Boston. And speakers fly in from all over the world to speak at this event. It's relatively inexpensive. It's really the one event a year that we actually have to charge for. It's a 2-day event. It's $150, which is pretty cheap as far as conferences go, and it's 2 solid days of speakers. And that's northeastphp.org, so check it out. I'll quickly mention something about video. We're now recording all of these with Google Hangouts. We try and do an intro video prior to the event, which you'll find on our Meetup page for the event. Moshe and I did a video a few nights ago. We put it up there. We share the link, and we're doing the same thing with the actual presentation. So you can see there's a little laptop over here. We're broadcasting live right now. So we'll put the link up on the Meetup site. If you know of people who couldn't make it here tonight and you think they might want to know about it, they can watch it now live. And I think we'll probably tweet it out too. And it'll be there forever. It's automatically saved on our YouTube channel so they can come back to it. But if they want to watch it live, they actually can. And just a quick thing about sponsorship. So we're really grateful that AppNet is paying for the pizza tonight. We run this group on almost no money. We accept sponsorships for people to pay for pizza. You can put a little logo on the side of our Meetup site. If you run an organization or if you work for an organization that you feel like can get behind what we're doing, feel like your organization might believe in what we do here every month, we'd love to have you as a sponsor in some way. It just keeps things rolling. We are an official 501c3 or 3C, I can never remember the order of that. Peter, which one is it? C3. We're an official 501c3, so when you send that idea up to the accountants, they'll probably feel good about sponsoring a group that has that designation. So please let us know. Great. You just said the Supreme Court said that you can give us as much as you want to, which is great news. I know that's what's been holding everybody back. They've been waiting for that decision. So since it's clear, we can just watch the floodgates open. But please get in touch if you feel like you want to be a sponsor. And we really appreciate Microsoft. They give us this space totally for free every single month. So they're another big sponsor of ours. And get involved. If you feel like you like what we're doing here every month and you feel like you have skills to contribute, let us know. This is my email, matt@bostonphp.org. I run the group with Gene and Bobby that are right over here. The three of us are the organizers. So yeah, let us know if you feel like you'd like to be involved in this. I'm going to just get out of the way here. I think it's a good time for me to step aside. I'm really excited to have Moshe here. He's the head of R&D at Acquia, and when we asked everybody, who would be a good person to give an introduction to Drupal, overwhelmingly we heard Moshe's name. So we're excited to have you. I'm going to hand it over right now. Thanks, Moshe.
All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Gene, Bobby. You guys run an awesome group here. I run the Boston Drupal meetup, which meets at MIT every month. So if people want to continue the Drupal conversation, please join that. The URL for that is groups.drupal.org/Boston. It's quite a bit smaller than this group. Okay, so this is going to be an informal talk, hopefully with slides.
Is that screen not doing its thing?
It's not doing its thing, but
Sometimes it double.
Let's see if I can get it to recognize the second screen.
We're just going to toggle this.
It's not seeing the second screen. Let's do this. Oh. Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. This is an informal presentation. So when you guys get the urge, feel free to raise your hands and ask your question. I'll repeat the question so that everyone online can hear. Okay, this is a introduction to Drupal. It's fairly high level. There's not a lot of actual PHP code in here, but I think it does apply to the Boston PHP members. First, a little bit about myself. I joined the Drupal project in 2001. That was actually the year that Drupal was founded. It was uploaded and shared with the internet by our founder, Dries Beitart, in January. I started with the project and contributed my first patch in October of 2001. And I actually have been constantly involved since then. It's a job of mine, and it's also a passion and a fun thing for me. So it's all that wrapped up in one. Since I joined so early, I have a very low user ID on Drupal.org. I'm number 23. A few of the things that I've done in Drupal land. I am a core maintainer of a few subsystems in Drupal. The user system, the base system it's called, like the base libraries, the comment module. And I also lead Drupal 8 development. There's a couple teams working on the current version of Drupal, Drupal 8, that I manage, the performance team, the mobile responsive design team, the RESTful web services team. I've been leading those efforts. And then down below that, there's 3 other projects related to Drupal that I maintain. Drush is the command line shell for Drupal. If you haven't checked that out, please do. It's pretty neat. And a few other projects down there that I run also. Okay, so what's Drupal used for? Drupal is a website building software, okay? And you can build websites by hand, for sure. You can do it the really old school way with Dreamweaver. Or you can use PHP frameworks to do so. Drupal's like a layer above the frameworks. There's less coding involved in building a Drupal website typically. You get a lot more for free, and I'll really get into that in a little while. And just want to make the point that when you build it yourself, you have all your own bugs to deal with. But when you build it with Drupal, you get tested code, unit tested code, community tested code, and you get code that is reliable, okay? So I just want to show you what kind of websites people have been building with Drupal. Non-governmental organizations. This is kind of one of the first groups that adopted Drupal. And so a few examples of those. Here's Greenpeace. All right, they're a big Drupal user. They're a huge nonprofit. And they run on Drupal. Here's another one, Red Nose Day. The examples here were developed by a British Drupal developer. So there's like a whole British spin to the examples, which is kind of fun. Red Nose Day is a big charity event, one-day event, where they raise lots of money in the UK. It's a little bit like Walk for Hunger here, or the American Cancer Society's relay thing. Amnesty International, another huge NGO that's on Drupal. Another big industry that has embraced Drupal, publishing and media. I have a few examples of those. Ozzy Osbourne is on Drupal. Okay, I don't think he's a web developer per se. Led Zeppelin. Actually, a lot of music artists are on Drupal. Warner Music, UMG, Sony Music, they're all huge Drupal users. So pretty much all the major artists are on Drupal, give or take. The Economist, their economist.com website is Drupal powered. This is actually a project that I worked on for a couple of years, doing architecture for them and also doing data migration for them from their old Oracle platform into Drupal. So, you know, if we have time, I could talk specifically more about the Economist website. mtv.co.uk is another Drupal site. This is actually one of the first sort of major brand names that jumped on Drupal. I think you have to go back to 2006 or so to when they moved on to Drupal. So I'm very thankful to them for having such foresight. Drupal's huge in government. All right, probably best known, whitehouse.gov. Our own government is on Drupal. There's lots of other parts of our own governments that are on there. I know the Department of Energy's website is on there, energy.gov, and lots of other ones. The one that was really bad is not Drupal, healthcare.gov. Okay, feel a need to point that one out. I think it's sheer luck that they didn't choose Drupal, but they didn't, so that was good. And here is the UK government, data.gov.uk, is a Drupal website. Gene?
Question. With WordPress, sometimes you can go to a website, and if you kind of know what to type in, you could figure out whether it's a WordPress-built site or not. Are there any behind-the-scenes tricks to go to a site and say, hey, behind the scenes, I could tell that this is built in Drupal?
Okay, so the question was, how can you tell if a given site is a Drupal site? We used to have all those tricks. They've all been replaced with an extension called Built With for Chrome, and I think the other browsers also do that. So that will tell you with a lot better accuracy what is powering the website you're looking at. There is one piece that is sure. Drupal sends a cache expiration header. So if you look at the headers for a given page, and if you see if it expires on November something, 1978, that's a Drupal site. And that is Dries' birthday. Okay. Here, the community type websites. We're definitely huge there. Twitter's website, eBay, PayPal's, those are all Drupal sites. Not their actual services. Their developer portals like dev.twitter and dev.paypal, those are Drupal sites. Here we have the Open University, and we have Pop Sugar is an example of another community that's on Drupal. Okay, so I think we've established that Drupal's everywhere by now. Mark.
This isn't meant as a, well, let me just ask the question. Sometimes you see these statistics indicating that a quarter or half the web is built on WordPress and it's down in single digits. At the same time, it's pretty clear that a lot of major organizations are going with Drupal. So can you characterize, if it can be characterized, what kinds of sites will typically be more likely to go with WordPress than vice versa?
Sure. So the question was, what kinds of sites are choosing WordPress as their CMS, and what kinds of sites are choosing Drupal? Yeah, I agree with the premise. There's sort of a lot of both happening out there. I think the typical perception, which I share, is that Drupal is for more complex websites, better suited than WordPress. So if you have a website with complex needs, or you think it might grow into complex needs, your best bet is Drupal. If you're trying to keep it simple and easy, your best bet is WordPress. That would be my first take on that. Okay, so Drupal is a software application. It provides these services here and others. Sort of the main thing it's known for is content management. Okay, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that. But what we mean by content management is that you can model your content. Let's say you're a newspaper. You have newspaper articles. Okay, articles have a lead image. They have a title. They have an author. They have a body. They have a byline. They have captions along with the images and so forth. So Drupal is a great tool for modeling out an article, and it gives you, all web tools for doing the modeling of the article. It gives you web tools for having your team of authors put in the data, put in the articles, and to configure a workflow around how articles are managed on their way to being published on your website. And some tools also for building like the landing pages that show articles, right? So your sports section and your metro section and so forth. All those kinds of queries you actually don't need to write SQL for. Drupal has a SQL builder in the GUI kind of thing called views. All right. Other basic services are there for you. User management. Okay, so you don't have to build your own user system and password system, and I forgot my password, and what are your favorite books and all that kind of stuff. Drupal comes with that, and it can be enriched by downloading more modules. All right, modules is the name of the plugin system in Drupal. For interacting with other parts of the web, Drupal is quite good. There's like integration modules with lots of web services. Here's like the content management part. The key actions here: adding, editing, and deleting your content in the middle, and like enriching that content with images and videos and sounds and tags, and scheduled publishing and searching of all this stuff. You want to add e-commerce to your site. Drupal has a fantastic commerce suite to go along with that. You need to send email. You need to send HTML email. You need to send push messages. All this stuff Drupal has integrations for. Right here.
Once you have a site set up, let's say it's e-commerce, day after day the article changes, but the structure is the same. So I'm a content creator. Between me and the appearance on Drupal, do you have a technical staff that needs to take my stuff put in there? Is it so set up that I just plug into something that automatically fixes it? And that kind of technical interface, or is it simpler, is it different in Drupal and WordPress?
Okay, so the question is about the content creation experience, and yeah, so it is an author. Is the interface so simple that the author can simply go to the live website, put his content in, and get it published, or do you rely on technical people for that? And the answer is that the expectation is that anyone can publish into Drupal and doesn't need a webmaster or a developer in the middle of that. The forms are supposed to be easy. The publishing process is transparent, and that's one of the fundamental premises is that no tech people are involved there. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. A little bit more about user management. Drupal has this notion of user accounts. Okay. Fundamentally, that's like a user table in our database, which is usually MySQL, but other database backends are possible. And you can import users using the migrate module if you're coming from something else. Otherwise, you start fresh there. There are other major notions in Drupal around user profiles, around user roles, and each role can have any number of permissions. Okay, so the set of things, capabilities that any given user can do is defined by all of the permissions that are associated with all of the roles he's been granted. Okay. It's quite a flexible permissioning system. It has remained basically untouched for 8 years, something like that. So I think it's pretty solid and works, and has a nice simplicity functionality balance. Here's a bunch of things that Drupal is already integrated with. One of the true niceties about Drupal is that if something gets hot next week, it will take only a few days before someone writes the Drupal integration for it. Okay. So in addition to being an application, Drupal is a framework. Okay. So some of the websites that we build are not articles with landing pages like a standard newspaper site. Sometimes we build very different applications with Drupal. One that I came across recently is a taxi company. They were using Drupal to track where their taxis were and do dispatching. They had enough content needs that they wanted to use Drupal for some of its content management features, and the rest, it was a convenient way to build a web application because of its framework capabilities. Okay. So the Drupal community is one of the great features of Drupal. All right, it's absolutely huge. It's as big as any other community in the open source land, probably bigger. So a little bit about things that we value in this community. We have coding standards. We stick to them pretty vigorously. All right, they come from the pair coding standards of all places. But I think now we might call them the Drupal coding standards. Security is really important. You have to pass a little test to make sure you write secure code and conforming code before you get an account on git.drupal.org, and which is to say before you start sharing code on Drupal. So everyone at one time knew how to write secure code when they're sharing stuff on Drupal. We really care about accessibility. Drupal 7, the current version of Drupal, always rates really highly in terms of accessibility. So we care about all sorts of disabled users and making their experience wonderful using Drupal, and thus using the websites you're building with Drupal. Drupal, from way back in 2001 when I started, was a global project. I was one of the first people in the United States to be working on Drupal. Dries is from Antwerp, Belgium. There were people from all over, even back then. Localization is really important for Drupal. And we have excellent multilingual tools in Drupal. I think we have done pretty well at keeping our layers separate and clean. Any developers here will recognize the importance of keeping your data and your logic and your presentation layers separate. Drupal does a great job of doing that. The presentation layer in Drupal is called the theme layer. So front-end people will want to pay attention to the theme layer. One of the hallmarks of Drupal, oh, right here, question.
So question about the databases. You mentioned MySQL, is that the only database you can use it? So I'm wondering about the requirements. So can you only use MySQL as a database for Drupal, or SQL, or can you install on Windows as well as Linux, the software?
Okay, so it runs on any operating system that PHP runs on. So both Windows and Linux and Mac OS X are all fine. As far as a database backend, MySQL and Postgres and SQLite are the three built-in database backends. There are contributed projects for Oracle and IBM and Microsoft SQL Server. So there are people running those as well. Okay, so modules. Since the very beginning, Drupal has had a module system, which other projects call their extension system or their plugin system. It's one of the hallmarks of Drupal. Even the Drupal core is built on top of modules. In addition to the 25 or 30 that come in Drupal core, there's over 10,000 now that are available on Drupal.org for download. The challenge now is actually figuring out which right ones of many are the ones that you're supposed to use. And well, it's a challenge, let's just say that. You certainly can hop on our IRC channel and ask for help. You can Google and get a flavor for what people are using. There's one key part of the project page where you download these things called usage statistics, which actually tells you how many people are using a given module. And the way that happens is that all live Drupal sites report back which projects they're using. That can be disabled if you don't want that, but by default they report back their projects. All right, so we know what people are using, and that really informs you as to which ones you should pick.
Question.
Sure.
Are all those modules open source or some?
Okay, good question. The question was, what's the license for all these 10,000 modules? In order to be on git.drupal.org, you have to be the same license as Drupal. So you have to be GPL version 2 or higher. All right. So the answer is yes. They're all open source. Sure. Okay. So the implication of having all of these modules that you can depend on is that you're building websites out of reusable components. And these components have been tested. You know that lots of other people are using them. They're probably not going to slow down your website or make your website buggy and so forth. So go ahead and rely on them and speed up your development. Okay, so GPL2 is the license of Drupal. That gives us the two features of open source that PHP people are going to be familiar with. Free as in rights and free as in beer. Libre and gratis, as they say in the UK, I guess. In addition to WordPress, which we've heard about, and Joomla, which is another big PHP content management system, there are a few proprietary systems that are good at content management. Adobe has one. Sitecore has one. So especially at Acquia, we come across lots of engagements where people are trying to decide which content management system they want to use, and they're thinking about those. It really comes down to, what does it come down to? I don't know, your taste and how much money you have. Open source really matters to a lot of people, the advantages of open source. That's certainly where Drupal's going to shine. All right. Proprietary ones are not open source. You cannot change them. You're subject to their roadmap, etc. I guess one more difference between the closed source CMSs and Drupal is this Drupal community that I mentioned. There's just an awesome number of developers whom you can rely on to build parts of your website or all of your website. They're open source people. They're generally nice people to work with. When you go closed source, the pool of people who can work on your site is going to be way smaller. Okay. The implication of that is that their rates are going to be higher. All right. So who makes Drupal? This is our pointy-haired boss here, Dries Beitart. He actually is my boss. At Acquia, he's the CTO. He is from Belgium. He has a computer science PhD in Java performance, of all things. But he knows something about coding. He wrote the first versions of Drupal. A lot of the real main ideas are actually his in there. That being said, he hasn't written a line of code in probably 5 years related to Drupal core. But he manages the project to this day. He enjoys it to this day, and he's, to his credit, Drupal has grown a lot because of him. Okay. Drupal events are a big part of our community. I mentioned this event that's every month in Boston. In addition, we have a bigger event called DrupalCon. There's 2 DrupalCons every year. One of them is in Europe and one of them is in North America. We're also toying with other ones. In February 2015, there'll be one in Bogota. If you guys want to go down there. We had one in Sydney, Australia last year. I want to kind of show you how DrupalCon has grown over the years. All right. There were 15 people at the very first DrupalCon in Antwerp. I was one of the 15. Dries was there. That's 2 of 15. And we didn't call it DrupalCon back then. That was kind of like a retroactive naming of the event. 2005 in Amsterdam, there were 60 people, 150, 450, 500 in Hungary, kind of hard to get to Hungary, 850 in Paris, 1,200 Copenhagen, 2011 in London, 1,700, again 1,700 in Munich, 1,830 last year in Prague. Those were actually the numbers for the European DrupalCon. The American DrupalCon is roughly double every year. We just had our American DrupalCon for 2014. It was in Austin, Texas. Attendance was 3,400, I believe, at the Austin DrupalCon. The next European DrupalCon is it's coming right up, September 29th, Amsterdam. We're finally doing a repeat city. So we're going back to Amsterdam. And just to get you guys excited, 2015 we're going to be in Los Angeles, okay, for DrupalCon. Really, DrupalCon is like an amazing way to immerse yourself in the Drupal community, to share your experiences, to learn from the people who are building it and putting up sites. So definitely encourage you to go if you can. You know, if you can't go, maybe others in your organization can go, but it really is a terrific event. Okay, so a little bit about the code here, Mark.
In addition to,
There's a mic behind you.
in addition to DrupalCon, there are smaller gatherings known as Drupal camps, and there's one happening here at MIT next week if anybody's interested, which is unique in that it's the only one I know of that's focused on design within code. It's called Design for Drupal.
Okay, really good point. Yeah, Boston's Drupal event is called Design for Drupal, and it's next weekend at the Stata Center at MIT. Okay, so the Drupal code follows a particular release timeline. We do a long period of feature development. That's the yellow bar there. Okay, this is Drupal core. When we feel like we need a new release, a new stable release for everyone to play with, we do something called feature freeze. All right, so when feature freeze happens, we start releasing beta releases of the next version of Drupal. We do beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, beta whatever until we think they're in pretty good shape. Once we have 0 critical bugs left in our issue tracker, we start issuing release candidates, which are like production-worthy code that we really want people to try and report any last bugs on. All right, so the latest stable version of Drupal is Drupal 7. That was released 3.5 years ago. So we're due for another one. The team's really working hard to get Drupal 8 out. We are feature frozen now. There's no more new features going into Drupal 8. We think we're going to issue the beta like within a month or so. So that's kind of where the release cycle is for Drupal. If you guys are contemplating starting Drupal projects, I'd encourage you to go with Drupal 7 for a while still. It's a platform that will serve you for a long time. It can fulfill all your web dreams. And you really don't want to be on the bleeding edge of Drupal 8 yet. Okay? Once you hit like beta 4, beta 5, if you don't mind a little pain, I'd say you can start building on that, but it's too early right now. parent.
Are you integrating, or did you integrate Bootstrap, or what are you using as your to handle that piece of?
Okay, so the question was, are we integrating the Bootstrap CSS framework for front-end stuff? Bootstrap is not in Drupal core, Drupal 8 core. I expect a lot of people will take the contributed Bootstrap module or Bootstrap theme and put that in and build sites with Bootstrap. So it's not too difficult, but it didn't actually make it into the Drupal core. There were a lot of people who wanted to be agnostic at that particular level. One of the major changes that is in Drupal 8 is that we built upon the Symfony components. So Boston PHP, you've probably heard of the Symfony project. We took a lot of our homegrown code that did routing, homegrown code that did theming, replaced it with the Symfony routing, replaced theming with Twig templates. So if you have done Symfony development, if that's kind of your comfort zone, I think you would be pretty excited about Drupal 8. All right. A little bit about Drupal security. When you install Drupal, we ask you if you want the update module installed, and that is what you get by default. When you have that installed in your admin control panel, we scan all the projects that you have enabled, Drupal core and all the contributed ones that come from Drupal.org, and we tell you when you're out of date. All right. So this is a huge service, and the website will actually email you if you're not going to this page and tell you when you're out of date. If you're just out of date because someone released a few new features in a module you use, then upgrade at your leisure. If you get a red update like you have here on Views, then you really should upgrade at the first available opportunity. The security team has issued a release. Now everyone on the internet knows what was vulnerable in old versions of what you're running, and you're just lucky if you don't get hit with that. So please pay attention to the update module when it tells you you have a problem there. Sure, in the back.
So I was looking at the Drupal website, and it seemed to me that the update process was manual. I had to get a tar file and extract it, delete all my old Drupal, and add the new one. Did I miss something? Have I got that wrong?
That is the typical process. I think if your web server is set up in a particular way, you can update through the web. Like you just give it the tarball, and it will go ahead and unpack it and put it where it needs to go. That particular way is not the most secure way to run your web server. So, in fact, most people run in a higher security mode than that. So you do end up having to do this manual work. That is a pain point for people, the actual unpacking and putting in places. It's a pain point to install the new code and verify that it works before you put it on your live site. So naturally, companies come around and say, we'll do this work for you. So if you don't have the skills or would rather focus on other things, there are companies that do it for you. And Acquia is one of those. Right? Here.
Just talk about Acquia. Just tell us something about Acquia and its role in Drupal.
Sure. The question was, what's Acquia's role in the Drupal community? So the Drupal project and Acquia are separate entities completely. There's like 6 or 7 people who can commit code to Drupal. Some of them work at Acquia, some of them don't, but it's sort of immaterial where they work. They're the ones who've been entrusted with Drupal's software. Acquia's role is to provide services around Drupal. The sort of flagship one is cloud hosting. All right, so we give you a place to put your Drupal site. It's a pretty high-powered place, more than shared web hosting. We give you 3 environments and more if you want more, dev, stage, and prod. And you use Git to version your source control, and then once you're happy with something you built on dev, you can put it on the staging server, share it with your creative team. Once everyone else is happy with it, you move it to your production site. Okay, so that's called Acquia Cloud. It's a fantastic place to put your website. Acquia has lots of other services. Site Factory is one, in case you have lots of similar sites you need to launch and manage in one central place. We have professional services people who will help you build your website or find partners of ours to build your website. So that's kind of the things that Acquia does. Hope that answers the question. It's a really common question. Okay, for those of you who are running Drupal sites now, these are the links to find out when there's security updates. If you don't have the update module, you can go ahead and find information here. Here's the members of the security team. All right, so thanks to all of them. The requirements, we had a requirements question earlier about database backends. Drupal 7 runs on lots of different web servers. Here we mentioned Apache, Nginx, and IIS. PHP 5.3 is the minimum version of PHP that you need. It certainly runs well on 5.4 and 5.5. And here we have an answer to the question about which database backends. Okay. I wanted to just come back to one of the ideas I mentioned in the beginning about kind of what's the heart and soul of Drupal software. And I sum it all up with fields and views. Okay, so fields, the field system in Drupal is about data modeling. So I used the example of articles in the beginning. Those have a lead image, maybe 2 or 3 sub-images. They have the body, they have the slogan, they have a date, maybe a date when it goes published, a date when it goes unpublished. They have a date of the incident, like the Boston Marathon bombing, and they might be part of the metro section of your newspaper. They might mention 3 or 4 companies. All of this is really valuable data. And if you were to only have it in the body of the article, you would be missing out on lots of opportunities to reuse this content. Okay, so Drupal is super, super good at giving you different fields for each bit of data like that, and then having you easily assemble it into an article page that looks the way you want to. All right. Unlike other tools, it requires no coding to build a solid data model for your site. The views part of this is the querying of all of that structured data. Okay, so views is a web-based way to get listings out of your website. If you want all the articles that belong to Metro in the year 2007, you can build that query with views. Okay, this is, and you can do sort of administrative things with views. All of the articles that are still unpublished, sorted by most recent activity. You know, these are the kinds of pages that are super easy to build with views. You don't need to talk to a developer to do so. All right. And just a little bit about the code of Drupal, for those of you that are coders. The most central idea in coding in Drupal, when you're writing add-on modules, either your own custom ones or for the community contributed ones, is the hook system. Okay? So the hook system is a way to run your own custom code when certain events happen in Drupal. I have 3 different events here. I use the term event loosely. Hook permission. Okay? The way you implement hook permission is you just write a function. If you wanted to call it your module, my module, then you do a function called myModule_hook_permission. And you return an array with the names and descriptions of the permissions that your module exports. Drupal, when it needs to find out what permissions are currently on the system, it will go and call all of the active modules, collect all their arrays, and then make a page with all of the permissions. So the admin can say, this role gets these 5 permissions, this role gets these 6 permissions, and so forth. All right. So the hook system is really about creating functions in your modules that are appropriately named. Drupal will call those functions, and you're off and running. Other events that you might want to use hooks for, every time a node gets inserted, that's my module_hook_node_insert. All right. Nodes are like the fundamental content building block in Drupal. All right. So a new piece of content being created is a pretty major event. You might want to send off an email to the person who's supposed to review that before it gets published. You might want to send off a note to your analytics, Google Analytics company that says, please track a new node for me, all of this kind of stuff, all right? Same thing for deletions. This example, my module is implementing hook user delete here. If my module needs to do some cleanup, when users get deleted, this is the function that would do so. All right. We're wrapping up here, and then we're just going to open up the floor to questions. Want to say my organization, Acquia, is hiring all sorts of people, technical people, non-technical people, engineers who like to stay in the Boston area, engineers who like to travel, people who work on products, people who work on websites. So please see me or use that email address on the slide, and be happy to get your application going. There's a web page there. You can check out open positions. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Moshe. I'll grab a microphone so I can run around and get questions. Who's got questions for Moshe? Oh, Bobby, right behind you.
I'm just curious. I've been just recently been doing a lot of work with WordPress, and I was wondering, like, what are some things that you would not do with WordPress, but you could definitely do with Drupal, and Drupal would be a lot better for doing?
I mean, complex sites. So, whitehouse.gov, sites that have like little affinity groups, like Twitter developers community might have something around their real-time API, and there's like a group of people who are working on that, and a group of people who are working on Twitter profiles, API, and all that sort of thing. Community-based websites, I think, would be a pretty good example. If you need, different presentations of your website, depending on who's looking at it or which section of the website they're looking at, I think you want to start looking at Drupal. You have to sort of look and see which plugins you might need to build this website, and then look and see what's available in the WordPress plugin world and what's available in Drupal, and see which one's going to be a better fit.
You're speaking. As you talked about using Drupal, you consistently talk about using modules and pieces of code that others have implemented and used, or that others have created. You're implementing them and configuring them for your own site. I'm curious about overwriting your core files, customizing the code in ways that we might want to do ourselves. What is your strategy there? How is that done, Drew?
Sure. Okay, so certainly, if you're building an interesting website, you can't just pick and choose everything from public. You have to write your own code. You use the same techniques that we've been talking about. So the hook system, the module system, is what you use to customize your site. You don't really override the core files. Drupal's made to be extended by modules. So modules themselves can, in some cases, override what core is doing, but in general, core doesn't do a lot. It's up to the modules to start implementing your voting features and your workflow features and all of that sort of stuff. You'll want to pick up a book, around coding with Drupal. Pro Drupal development's a good one. Using Drupal is a good one. Using Drupal is not so much about coding, I think, as it is around site building. And start learning about the hook system would be the main thing. And then there's just so much reading you can do from other modules and copying and pasting and learning. This is how I learned Drupal too, is by looking at things that other people had written. So that would be my suggestion there.
Lots of questions.
First off, I'm a pretty experienced engineer, and I've written MVC applications with .NET. Where I'm thinking about this is I belong to an organization, very small organization. They have a minor website, and they want to rewrite their website. Now, I can do this through major applications, but I'm starting to think that maybe I might want to use Drupal. Now, I know a little bit about PHP, but I know nothing about Drupal. So my question is, where do I start?
Okay. The self-study group. Can I pitch the self-study group? Would be a good place to learn. I recommend that people go to either the books or the videos, depending on your learning style, and start learning there. I mean, there's so many videos out there for Drupal, and not just like random guy on YouTube. There's Lullabot is one of the main consulting companies. They have Drupalize.me is a fantastic website with lots of videos. You subscribe. It's a great deal at like $40 or $50 a month. Watch as many videos as you want and educate yourself that way. Lullabot. Lullabot.
You guys a plural site by any chance?
Are you guys a plural
Well,
site?
it's Drupal on plural site, which is similar to what you just mentioned.
Plural?
Plural site.
I don't follow the question.
I said, are you on other sites other than one you just mentioned?
Oh, yes, there's another one. Build a module. Google Build a module. They have a tremendous library of videos that you can also subscribe to and learn that way. All right. I mentioned 2 other books before: Pro Drupal Development, Using Drupal, also great resources. So I think that's where I would go to start learning Drupal. Sure.
I hope this question isn't too fundamental. Just getting back into technology, and I've been doing web development since the beginning of the year. So I've moved from Java to PHP a couple of months ago, and I've been doing a lot of JavaScript and jQuery. So I'm wondering with Drupal, how does it work if you build a website? Is it automatically, would you need a module to make it a responsive website so that it would resize automatically on the smart phones and the tablets, etc.?
Sure. So the way that works is that one of the decisions you make when you build your website is that you need a theme in order to do the presentation layer of your website. You can build your own theme, or you can choose from the many contributed themes that are out there. The theme is the thing that's responsible for the layout of your pages. So therefore, that's the thing that will decide if your site is responsive or not. The themes that people are picking now are all responsive. If people are curious, the popular ones are called Omega, Zen, and some other ones. Maybe you guys can chime in about which ones you use. But I know those 2 are big. Which one? Bartik. Genesis theme. Okay, so there's a few ones there. That's really how you get the responsive done, right? The core themes that are in Drupal are responsive in Drupal 8. and they're not horrible in 7, but they're not great either. So you're probably better off looking at contributed ones in Drupal 7. Right here.
I know in the so I know with Drupal there's been the kind of decision not to perpetually look back and support old versions. So you know now with 7, the currently supported versions are what 6 and 7. But I've also seen some discussion about whether or not that 2-version policy would be abandoned for 8, so that support for 6 would continue. What's the current thinking on that question as we head into 8 and beta?
Sure. Yeah. So traditionally, the security team, all volunteer team, has said we'll release 2. We will support 2 at a time. The discussion seems to be going like. We're going to expand that support window, the security team is, so that we will support 6 for either 6 months or a year after 8 is released to give people more time to upgrade. Okay. After that, there will certainly be like commercial providers of support for Drupal 6 for a long time. But that's when the security team says we don't have enough bandwidth to work on it. I suppose if it comes down to that day and people don't like what's happening, they can certainly fund the security team and fix that problem. But we haven't been able to find the right people to do that yet.
So you mentioned earlier about kind of going through the workflow with using Drupal from development to testing and staging to production. Is there an easy way in Drupal for you to be able to do that? So like maybe host Drupal and then publish out to another server? And how does that work with Drupal?
Okay, so this is another frequently asked question about how do we stage Drupal configuration and content and move it through the different environments. In the current version of Drupal, Drupal 7 and before, the typical way is that you make updates to your source code, okay, check that into your version control system, and you move that to your new environment. You move your environment's tag and you get the new code. So what has happened at that point is that your database might have an old schema, might not have all the right data that was supposed to go along with the new code. So we have a set of functions that you can write in our update system. They're called update hooks. And so you go to your next environment, let's say staging, and you run your set of updates that are there. It's on a page called update.php. You just press the button, and it goes ahead and runs all the updates. All right, so that's how that works. We improved the situation in Drupal 8. We made a new system called config. And config is stored in these YAML files, YML files. And so you can check those into source control and move them along. So there's less a need for those update functions that I mentioned and for visiting update.php. So the sort of staging of configuration is a lot stronger in Drupal 8 than it has been in prior versions. I'm going to pick the person farthest away from the mic.
You explained that there are thousands of contributors contributing thousands of modules and themes. But also you said that you are responsible for some of the core within Acquia. Is that, so is most of the core come out of Acquia? Or is it also a mix of contributors from outside?
Most of it comes from everywhere else. There's a minority that is coming from Acquia in terms of lines of code, in terms of important code. By almost every measure, Acquia is sort of a minor player in the Drupal software per se. Dries is the head of the open source software project, and a CTO at Acquia. So there's an overlap from a person perspective, but he's quite good at wearing two hats to the extent that that sort of thing is necessary. Acquia itself has always taken the position that in order for us to succeed, Drupal has to succeed. And so there really isn't a divergence there in priorities. We want the same thing. And I think the people who are active in Acquia and in Drupal are able to manage that. It doesn't feel like a conflict of interest. It really feels like a natural thing. Right here.
Since that you mentioned that
Here comes the mic.
Since you mentioned that the Acquia is actually supporting the Drupal project, is Acquia also like sponsoring hackathons for Drupal?
Sure. Acquia sponsors lots of DrupalCons, Drupal camps, hackathons, magazines, school events, like really puts a lot of sponsorship money into the Drupal ecosystem. And it just like it helps run these events, it helps run Drupal too. So yeah, Acquia does that, and there are a number of other companies that are putting in great amount of sponsorship there.
Is there any special pages, like websites that you can check all the latest news related to Drupal?
We have something called Drupal Planet. If you want to Google for Drupal Planet, you'll find a web page and an RSS feed with like the most important blog posts that are happening in Drupal land. And the blog posts are aggregated from all over Drupal-based blogs. Yeah, right here.
First of all, thank you very much for the time. Really appreciate it. Very interesting discussion. When I started my website a few years ago, I shied away from Drupal. One reason because of an acquaintance of mine said he had difficulties in the comments section on his website. And he was experiencing lots of spam. I'm not sure if it was accurate or not, but that was the reason I shied away from it. Just wondering if that's an issue now, if there's anything special you need to do to protect against it.
Sure. Well, yeah, spam on the internet is like a huge problem. It's definitely not a Drupal-specific problem. The sort of most popular module that people use for spam killing is called Malum. It's available for WordPress and for Drupal. It's particularly popular with Drupal. Its nice thing is that you just write your comment, you submit it. It does a textual analysis on what you posted, decides how spammy your post is, and if it thinks it might be spam, then it will show a CAPTCHA to you. And then if you pass that, it goes ahead and publishes the comment. Akismet is another one that people use. It's available also on WordPress. reCAPTCHA is another one that you see all over the web. There's Drupal modules for these things. So I think that's sort of under control as far as, it's as under control as the rest of the web is around spam.
I'm familiar with WordPress, and one of the issues that I come across a lot with WordPress and using their plugins is it seems like WordPress probably has updates a bit more frequently, maybe once every few hours or so. And one issue is the modules no longer supporting the latest version of WordPress, or so my question is, do you see the same sort of pattern happening with Drupal, or is it less so because of the release cycle?
It seems like it might be a slightly less big problem in Drupal because we go so long between major releases of Drupal. But it definitely can be a problem when you want to go from Drupal 6 to 7 or 6 to 8 or 7 to 8. There's going to be a lot of changes. A lot of the modules that a lot of them will still exist, and you can upgrade happily. The ones that don't exist, you need to write replacements or find replacements and deal with their data. So I think it's still a problem, but perhaps a little bit less.
No more questions? All right, I forgot to mention that folks sometimes go to a bar afterwards. There's a bar in Kendall Square called Champions Bar. There's usually a group that kind of gathers somewhere around here and makes their way over there, so check it out. But let's give Moshe a round of applause. That was awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next month. Thanks for coming.
How it worked out okay?
Yeah. And there. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, so am I. Oh, really? Oh, cool. All right.